You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast. It's Wednesday. We're covering the first three matches from the IPL this week. It's blow up central. There's nobody in this team. Nobody in this league. There's no team in this league want to win a game of cricket. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Ross Legg. How you doing, Ross?
Yeah, really good, thanks. Other than my beautiful pink boys not covering themselves in glory today against Lucknow.
Beautiful pink boys sounds like the lead into a Manscaped ad, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So sort out your beautiful pink boy.
Make your pink boy more beautiful.
20%.
Well, at least we've got the read out of the way.
That's good.
done.
Yeah. Max Rowe-brown. How you doing, Max?
Hello. Yeah, I've got a cold. Otherwise, all good.
What brought on the cold?
I went to a
Germs.
wedding at the weekend. I assume it was at the wedding.
Okay, it's not.
There's a nice Partridge piece there, Max. I felt I enjoyed that. That was in the style of Alan Partridge. Nicely done.
That's
a goal.
That is a reference that's going to go over the heads of many of our listeners.
Yeah, it shouldn't though.
It shouldn't. Yeah, Alan Partridge. Check it out. It's a very
English
style of humour. And a very English joke, really, isn't it? I don't even know if he's got any international thing. Anyway, look, we're talking IPL. It's a pretty jam-packed show. We've got RCB v CSK, the South Indian Derby, the River Derby. There's a dispute over the source of a river that spilled out into cricket. It was a good cricket match. Then we have Mumbai v Sunrisers Hyderabad. Mumbai, I'm going to start calling them the Evil Empire. I think. Which will annoy some people, right. But there's the Evil Empire, the brave boys, the Sunrisers brave boys, they had a chance to mow down the Evil Empire, but failed. And then Josh Buttler did a thing. It wasn't a very good thing in the game we just watched. Might do that in reverse order, mix it up. But before we do, Ross, Serious Cricket are involved, aren't they?
They are indeed, and we are sponsored by Serious Cricket. They provide our cricket equipment and have given our listeners 10% off if you use code TCP23. My brother used it for cricket pads today, so it works. Go and do it. You'll get it shipped to the UK, and that's all you need for this season ahead. Ours starts on Saturday if the weather
on Saturday.
lets us.
Well,
allegedly,
if we are lucky, and we might not be. Yes. Max, what happened in the cricket today?
The cricket today, well, as you mentioned, it was the beautiful pink boys of the Rajasthan Royals. They were back in Jaipur against Lucknow. And, Lucknow batted first and KL Rahul did his thing. And everyone was like, well, that was rubbish. KP piled in. And that was when we knew that actually there was something more going on than just choosing to bat slowly. Because the only person who could be more wrong than KL Rahul is Kevin Peterson. And so it proved. He laid right into him, said it was the worst thing he'd ever watching KL Rahul in the power play. Turned out that his effort of 39 off 32 was actually quite good. Lucknow didn't try and hit the ball anywhere and meandered to 154 for 7. Which we all thought would get chased down in double quick time. But yeah, like you said, Jack, Buttler did a thing. That thing involved scoring 5 runs off his first 14 balls. The other thing he did was then run out Sanju Samson. And they just sort of very blindly stumbled towards a defeat. Rayan Parag also needs a few pelters for completely abdicating any ability or attempt to win the game and trying to make Debra.
He hit 6.
He hit a 6 after he'd defended one into the offside and come through for an easy single with 29 needed off 10 or something. What an absolute disgrace. Bottle job, that's what I say. Anyway, yeah, Royals, bad.
Right, Ross, here's a question for you. What happened? Why were they bad?
I think it's easy to sit and blame the conditions. And I think we've seen kind of in Jaipur, some of the conditions have been a little bit, let's say, home friendly, is probably fair to say. But on this occasion, you have to put your hands up and say, well, actually, the good teams find good ways to win. And that's exactly what Lucknow did today. They adapted a little bit better. I thought the Afghanistan bowler, or Hack bowled really, really well. I think he ended up with 4 overs, 0 for 19, I think it was. I think it was 3 overs, 0 for 9. So that's a absolutely cracking effort and
It's
took
a
full
win
advantage.
for Dan Weston.
Yeah, it is indeed. And it's bits like that when you have kind of a two-paced pitch that you need good bowlers to go to. And I think that Andy Flower got the selection right. I think you saw the strength in what Lucknow are trying to do here, and they've solidified themselves in that top 4 playoff space at the moment. Whilst Rajasthan are still in a great position, obviously. But today they'll look back with a little bit of regret and a missed opportunity, I think. Josh Butler in particular played himself kind of into a corner a little bit and kind of took on the whole innings responsibility himself. And you see sometimes that works, and it works more often than not for Josh Butler sometimes, but not normally when he's behind the 8 ball chasing to get back. He was typically striking around the kind of 80 mark throughout his innings, and it's not good enough when you're trying to chase down a total in the IPL.
Max, they say Lucknow. They say cricket is a conditions game. My thoughts on this were that Lucknow just played the conditions a lot better than Rajasthan. Their bowling choices were better. The way their bowlers bowled were better, and in some ways, I think the way they went about setting a total was, smarter than how Rajasthan went about chasing it. Would you agree?
I would agree. I think what was interesting from my point of view was the fact that they very quickly realised, Lucknow, that it was this kind of pitch. And as a result, they solidified. They played fairly safe cricket throughout the innings. And it worked. It worked for them. They managed to speed up a little bit at the end. Partly that was down to upping in the intent, but also partly down to just a bit of wayward bowling. I think Jason Holder's over in the 19th. He started with a couple of slot balls down the leg side, which were quite easy to put away. That gave them a bit of a kick on, because I think the final over only went for 8, didn't it, from Sandeep Sharma. So they paced it conservatively but sensibly. And what I found bizarre was how the Royals coming out had obviously seen Lucknow bat and had an idea of what was going on. Also, it was their pitch. And they didn't seem to have a clue what to do. I mean, Josh Butler tried to smack everything and inside edged everything, or missed it onto his own pads and looked all at sea. But there was no evidence of them trying to play themselves in and get a read of the pitch. Jaiswal aside, perhaps, because he batted quite well. But it was all a bit frantic and a bit muddled, I think. And the fact that Josh Butler took up so much of the time then sort of led to that downfall that we saw at the end. Ran out Sampson, and then Hetmeyer came in and had to go for it straight away. And once we've seen it countless times when you're chasing a low total, how easy it is to back yourself into a situation where suddenly you need 10 and over. And actually, that's not that easy to do.
Even when it got to 10 and over, they didn't really do anything about it. It was only sort of the last 3 overs where they, I thought, seriously tried to do something to increase the run rate. At which point it was kind of.
I was cheering. Yeah. I'll give you that. I was when Jarrell came out and he hit that first shot. I was going.
Yeah, it was so close. 6. I mean, that was a great catch. You have to give some credit to Deepak Huda for that catch. That was. That's the only
thing he's done all IPL. Genuinely his only contribution, and it's potentially one of the games.
I mean, when you kind of see, like, and in particular a game like this, there was a biggish boundary to one side and a shorter boundary to the other, which I think from the bowling side, Lucknow did quite well and dealt with quite well. But normally you see something like, okay, well, we can't hit boundaries, but we'll try and like time or nudge some 2s and scamper some quick 2s. And there wasn't even much of that from the Royals, which I found a bit bizarre. It was a puzzling attempt to chase it down.
I think there's an interesting thing going on with the Royals. Like, we've talked a lot about home advantage in this IPL. I don't think they've got any. I think they're the best team in the tournament. But the place that they have to play their home games look, my cat's got involved here. The place that they have to play their home games doesn't really work for the team. Of the venues in this year's IPL, it is the worst for 6 hitting. So there's a 6 every 29.8 balls. There are quite a few venues where it's sort of down at like sub 20. And I think we've said on this show before that the league-wide average for this year is about a 6 every 15 balls. Now, this team with Hetmeyer and Sampson and Butler, and even Jaiswal, and Jarrell, you can throw him in. maybe even Ashwin. They are quite six oriented. Like they're not a team of like they're not run and gun. They're not David Warner.
I tell they're 60 pink boys, aren't they?
They are, but that's
60 pink boys.
But that, I mean, that is going to work at a lot of venues. But I think at the hardest place in the IPL to hit sixes, I wonder whether they'll get caught out a few times. And I they play one other game away from this place, don't they? So that's probably one of their other home games. I should say is away from Jaipur. But they've got 4 more here. I think they'll have to scrap to win them then, and I'm not really sure that they've got on the batting side anyway the playing personnel to pick up those wins. I think
they absolutely do, Jack.
Do
they
you?
Absolutely do. His name's Joe Root.
Well, you know what? That's an interesting line of thought. He might not be the worst option because you could probably bowl him at this venue. And a player who can tick along at a decent strike rate, get you to sort of 160 in a chase, might be sort of fairly handy. I'm just having a look at the bowling averages. Bowling averages, there's not that much in it between spin and pace, to be honest. The economy rate's 7.4 for spin, 7.6 for pace. So perhaps he's not like an automatic bowling choice.
Yeah, I think you could have him in for. You could maybe even get him in for holder. And,
it would have to be that
an impact sub Marian Parag probably.
It would probably have to be that. I mean I don't know if they could work that out, but I do think we might see them lose a match or another 2 matches even like this at this venue because I really don't think they're a team designed to play here.
No, we all know I'm the biggest super fan going when it comes to Rajasthan. And I slightly disagree. I think they got a little bit unlucky with the Samson run out today. And Samson is one of those people who can play in any conditions and has shown on numerous times of carrying this team on his back. You've also seen people like Devdutt Padikkal, Jaiswal actually playing these conditions. Josh Buttler is the best T20 batsman in the world. Yes, he's built around sixes, get that. But again, you're allowed to have kind of off dates here and there. This isn't a career where he's hitting 40 off of 40 every week. So I think it's slightly different. The worrying point for me today, though, was actually on the bowling front in Yuzi Chahal. It was not a great outing from him. And I think if they are going to win these types of games, you need to have, especially on low scoring decks like this, Ashwin and Chahal need to be the ones who are turning the screw. I
think that's why Lucknow did really well because they basically were like, we're going to target a guy. And they decided that Chahal was the guy.
Well, I mean, I think that's fair, but I also think you're really overstating how good Sanju Samson is at over like sort of turning the strike over there, and how good Buttler is at turning the strike over there. Like they are exceptional cricketers, but they aren't exceptional at the thing that you need to be exceptional at this ground. Like they're going to get caught on the ropes a lot. They're going to struggle a lot, I think, on this surface. I wonder if you wanted to pick a player that might sort of be a bit of an unsung hero at home, Devdutt Padikkal might be the one that you actually point to instead of those two, who is a slightly more rotation-oriented player, a bit more of a 4-hitter, if you like, somebody that probably won't spoon a catch. But I do worry a little bit for Samson, Hetmeyer and Buttler at this home ground. I think they're going to have other games where they run into similar problems. Fortunately, they are, I think, the best T20 team in the league, so they'll probably overcome that, and I think they'll pick up enough points away from home for it not to be a problem.
Also, their bowling's pretty good as well in the sense.
And their bowling will keep them in contests too. But I think there are better batting lineups for the place that they play all their games.
Is it Punjab they're playing Guwahati?
Yeah, it might be. I don't know.
Because that would be quite handy to not play them here.
Shall I have a look? Actually, I can't be bothered to have a look. But someone in the chat will let us know. Speaking of the chat, actually, if you're watching on YouTube, why not give us a like? Why not click subscribe? We went past 13,000 subs, so big thank you to everyone who has been clicking sub there, and also if you've been on YouTube or whatever. Should also plug that we have extra content on Patreon, patreon.com/thecricketpod. You get a weekly IPL power ranking from me. That went out on Monday. And you get a bunch of other stuff too, as well as a very, very active Discord. at this time in the year. Which one of you wants to talk about Josh Butler in a little bit more detail? Because he did probably cost his team the game.
He shit the bed today, big time.
How much are you going to kill him, Ross?
Not at all. I enjoy the people who point out that we're obviously English, and some people do think we're Australian, but we are English. And I think sometimes the criticism that we put on people like KL Rahul, and you can see it from our Twitter feed literally right now, of people kind of filling that with going, well, you never say this about Josh Butler, kind of what's going on with Josh Butler. Josh Butler doesn't really make a habit of doing it or build a career like KL Rahul has.
There isn't a large body of evidence to suggest that this happens all the time.
Yeah, there's going to be a few innings here and there where you're just like, do you know what, we could have done better. But there's also freak innings where Rajasthan Royals are 90 off of the power play and he's already hit a 50. And you're kind of sitting there going, well, sometimes you just got to take the rough with the smooth. Today, it didn't work out. I think what they were going with was, do you know what, we're going to try to follow what LSG did up front, try and build a bit of a base and then try and see if we can take down a bowler or two. But what happened was Navdeep or Hack bowled really, really well and they didn't let it work. And I just thought, Lucknow outplayed them today. Josh Butler, unfortunately, really poor innings. They might well regret that.
Cool. Anything else on this game before I hit the break button and we move on to some of the other action from this week? Great. Well, we will be back in 2 seconds.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Cricket Podcast where we have 2 more games to talk about. And it's Wednesday, isn't it? I don't know if we said at the top of the show. Analytics Corner. That means all of us, I don't know if Ross has done this, but
I've got a bit.
All of us have got a little analytical nugget for the third part of the episode if that is what floats your boat. Obviously it's T20, so if you're not up with the kids and you're not doing your homework, what are you? Speaking of kids and homework, Max, manscaped.com. Let's give some love to our one of our sponsors today. Use the code CricketPod for 20% off at manscaped.com for all of your below the waist grooming requirements. What have you been using recently, Max?
I'm actually wearing the boxers today.
Are you?
I think you.
Oh, show us. Go on, show us.
No, this is a PG show, and I will not be unearthing my underwear, but I am wearing the very comfortable boxers, the boxers 2.0. They're lovely, they're smooth, they're comfortable, they breathe well, they're everything you'd want in a pair of boxers, and I would highly recommend them alongside everything else in the performance package. Your lawnmower 4.0 for the general grooming, the one
grooming,
the one for your face, the one for your face holes, the weed whacker for your. If you got nose and stuff, no one wants to see that. It's all there. It's all good. And you can get 20% off with the code CricketPod, as Jack said, and free shipping.
That's right. Right, we've got 2 games. Which one do we want to do first?
Let's go to the Evil Empire.
Evil Empire, right. So Mumbai Indians. I'm calling them the Evil Empire, one, because they are a bit of an empire, aren't they? Of all the teams in the IPL, I think,
they've got Cape Town. They've got New York.
Also, New York's got a tie-in. Like, New York is the home of the Yankees, the original Evil Empire. And I think, of all the owners, I feel like the Ambani Empire is probably the biggest empire. So it's a name in jest. If you're worried, if you're worried,
It's like on the show Mr. Robot, isn't it? They're Evil Corp. And maybe what you're seeing is that the Ambani group is that.
Once again, it's not great. We're English and we're talking about evil empires, but we'll
it's
cricket related. Max. Keep it light. Come on.
The empire's got nothing to do with cricket. Right, they played Sunrisers, who are they're the team that we want to do well. Well, the team that I've decided I want to do well for now.
I have as well.
After 3 years of being driven up the wall by them. Fucking incompetency, stinking the place out, 14 pointless cricket matches I had to watch every single year, getting rid of Rashid Khan for one exciting player and you get rid of him, the whole Dave Warner saga, the whole Kane Williamson saga after the Dave Warner saga. They hire ESPN's analyst. He helps them put together a good team. It looks like they've turned around things after a dodgy start. Brook gets a century. He shuts his doubters up. Then he tells everybody, "I've shut you up," which I thought was a real power move, to be honest. And then they play Mumbai, who are kind of the opposite, aren't they? They're like, yeah, evil empire, old money. They've been there, done that. They've got a ridiculous team that doesn't make any sense. Started off terribly, turned it around. That's the same as Sunrisers, so the narrative doesn't quite work on that particular point, but we'll move on. They play each other, and Sunrisers cough up 192 runs, which is quite a lot of runs. Now, Mumbai, it's fair to say Mumbai are a batting-heavy team. And this is going to happen. Like, Mumbai are going to get some runs. They're going to chase some scores, and we've seen that recently as well. I think we're now seeing how Mumbai can win games, and maybe they're
took them a little bit, didn't it? They took them a little bit just to figure out their batting lineup.
Creeping into contention potentially. They look like they've got people firing at the right time. 3 wins, 2 losses. Ross, you're looking like you don't believe me, but they're in a good place. They're in a good place.
Oh.
Even then, even saying all that though, 192 in Mumbai, Marine Drive. Low altitude, flat deck. Sunrisers have got a really good chance. What do? Get bowled out. They just lose wickets constantly through the whole innings. I mean, they never actually really end up out of the game, but they never really end up in it either. Mayank Agarwal, 48 from 41, leads the charge. And Heinrich Klaasen at one point looked like he'd hit them into a winning position. He destroyed Chawla. And then fell.
He wasn't leading the charge, was he? Agarwal.
It was
the charge of the Light Brigade.
Heinrich Klaasen was leading the charge.
You said Agarwal was leaving the charge.
No, I said Klaasen. I'd moved on. 36 of 16, Klaasen. Destroyed Chawla. Agarwal didn't destroy Chawla, did he? Agarwal didn't
but you did say he led the charge.
Klaasen destroyed Chawla. 36 of 16. Then he is out to Chawla, which kind of blows it. And the real story, though, Max, in this whole game, and I haven't mentioned him once, not Arjun Tendulkar, not Abdul Samad, it's Cameron Green.
Yeah.
The bigger show. That's what I'm going to bill him as. We've got Glenn Maxwell.
In stature and performance.
64 off 40, and he bowled pretty well. He nailed his Yorkers. Cam Green has, Harry Brook arrived last week. Cam Green's off the plane.
Yeah, and it was turnaround even within his performance on the day, because for the first 5 or 10 balls, he didn't look like he knew which way around the bat was. It was genuinely embarrassing to watch. And then played himself in, and by the end, just started smoking it around. And the bowling was equally impressive because, like you say, it was a decent deck, and they were well in it. Sunrisers, despite all the wickets, they were well in with a shout, and he kept it tight. Nailed his Yorkers, like you said, and maybe this is the start of Dre Russ 2.0.
Could be. No. Apparently, the game was in Hyderabad, which I knew because I watched it. But
yeah,
here's a question. Like, this is an important one to answer. When the IPL fixtures go up, why are they like randomly in order? So it's not. It should be Sunrisers Hyderabad v Mumbai Indians, or if you want to do it American style, Mumbai Indians at Sunrisers Hyderabad. But in the IPL, it's just random. It's just like you have to go into the scorecard, scroll all the way to the bottom, and find out who's at home. You can't like just scan it like it's a football score. Why? Like, come on. Anyway,
there's always improvements to be made.
Cameron Green, I was really impressed. I think that's really deserved man of the match.
Yeah.
I had him as my MVP, and I did that as a joke. But now I don't look so stupid, do I?
Yeah, 1 in 5. We'll forget about the other 4 attempts at playing.
If he does this in all of the rest of the games, then you'll be sorry.
Yeah, I will. I'll be highly wrong, but I don't see it.
What I do like about this from Mumbai Indians is that they kind of look like they had a plan. So I think we've been critical of them. They were on a really terrible run for the last 18 months, 2 years, really, really terrible. And yesterday when they were playing, it looked like they had a bowling plan, and I quite liked it. So it didn't come off for everybody, but literally like bowling Yorkers and nailing them looked to be within the wheelhouse of the people they'd actually selected, which could definitely not be said for some of the teams they had selected already in this tournament.
I think it is. I'd agree. I think it's their best team, and I think that they did clearly have a plan. I don't think it's replicable in any way. To be perfectly honest, I think it's basically been proven by now. Like the career of Chris Jordan is testament to this. It's basically been proven by now that just trying to bowl Yorkers, like, ultimately isn't really possible.
People catch on to it.
Well, it's that, but the margin for error.
Difficult.
Save it for analysis corner.
You have, well, I mean, maybe we'll get there, but you have such a thin margin between bowling a half volley or a full toss and nailing a Yorker that it's suicide to make that your main plan for all of your bowlers. Like there are the odd bowler. I mean, like, look, if you're Jofra Archer and you're Bumrah and you want to fire in a few Yorkers, I don't mind, and there are reasons with the amount of backspin they put on the ball, basically, that mean that kind of works for them, and it does work for them. I don't know if I would lump Arjun Tendulkar, I did it again, Cameron Green, Jason Behrendorff and Riley Meredith in that group. Like, that is the backup bowling unit for Australia, and Arjun Tendulkar. Right.
But you've got to give them that sometimes on those bits where you've got limited skill set of players,
maybe
this is where you need to bowl, right? You've given a clear plan. Okay. You don't try and do right. You've got all these variations. You're not trying to do like a Harshal Patel, are you? You're bowling one delivery today, guys, and they're fast bowlers. Let's be fair, they can barely read, so literally they have to be like, you've got to bowl in this part. You see those stumps? Try and bounce it by them, okay? You go out and it slaps them on the arse, and they kind of go for it.
All right, I can kind of see where you're going. I think it did actually nearly blow up though. Like, Behrendorff bowled a hilariously bad over to kind of open the door. After, to credit to Behrendorff, very good in the power play, and then the over that went for 19 was a disaster. And they got bailed out a little bit, which meant that Arjun didn't have to bowl his over to anybody that could bat. It was I think it was just who was batting at that point.
It was
Samad, Abdul Samad.
Samad, yeah, and it wasn't Washington Sundar because he'd just run himself out.
Oh my god!
By A, not trying to get in, and B, just as he approached the crease, running in the wrong direction for no observable, discernible reason. Just decided he was going to go on just run off.
I can't believe I forgot that. That's the worst run. He looked like he'd smoked a couple of fours. Looked like he was potentially going to be in business. He ran a 30-yard single. Yeah. It had a curve to it.
And jogged the last 5.
Yeah, didn't run his bat in at all.
Bizarre.
Do you reckon the video analyst goes, "Come here, mate. Look, let me just show you this." You
go through your mind.
What's happened here? You've gone the wrong way.
You know when you have interviews at the end of like a game of football, and they're like, "So, great goal today, great strike, 25 yards. Tell me what was going through your mind." And you're like, well, fuck off. Why have you got a job as an interviewer? What I would love to hear is, Washi, you ran yourself out today. Tell us what was going through your mind for those last 5 yards as you were trying not to get in.
Tim David was pretty good in the field. Just props to Tim David as well. Who's quietly-ish having a pretty good year. Big time Timmy Dim.
Yeah. He's got big shoes to fill. Kieran Bollard's big shoes.
Yeah, but he's
probably got quite big feet. Have you seen the side?
Yeah, like he's got a very round face as well, hasn't he, Tim David?
Yeah, not really giving much of the ball though, is he? So.
I mean, the other possibly unrepeatable or not that easily repeatable thing that Mumbai have got going for them at the moment is that Pierce Chawla is having his best season ever. I mean, I know he was a bit expensive this game, but he did take 2. One very important wicket. But before that, he's been like really good. Yeah, I'm so confused.
I think it's a little bit of a case of him being, like, as nuts as this sounds, their best bowler, and so teams been like, well, as long as we don't blow it to this guy, we will get to feast. Well, I think was maybe a little bit about
people have been blowing it to this guy.
Yeah, but well, they have. But maybe that's just because they've been playing a bit tentative. Maybe they should just try and take him 43.
Take him down. Yeah, like Heinrich Larsson.
I thought the slightly different thing in this game was that they actually. Behrendorff and Meredith bowled pretty well up top. Cameron Green was pretty good up top as well in his over. Like, I think credit has to go to Mumbai's power play, basically. I thought, and like,
which is the only way they're going to win games.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Arjun Tendulkar, we should talk about him as well. He bowled a final over, and people were raving about it. I looked at the Hawkeye data and I thought it was actually quite a bad over, but he was saved by bowling to sort of a combination of Markande, Bhuvi Kumar, Abdul Samad. What did you make of Arjun second time out?
It was all right.
Yeah, he got a funny run up. Needs to work on that. A lot of energy that's not doing much. He bowled it all right in the power play. He kept it quite tight, kept the lines tight, got a bit of swing, but he doesn't bowl quickly enough.
But at the same time, like it's a good opportunity for the lad, right? He's literally testing himself out on the highest stage, bowling to the best players. So who knows?
Yeah. But he is also a nepotism boy, so there's that.
Yeah.
You're never going to go that. Oh, he's my favourite player in this Mumbai Indians lineup, unless you're on a Tendulkar stan.
It's very evil. It's very evil empire as well, isn't it? You got your sort of your evil overlord. Not that Sachin Tendulkar's an evil overlord, because
he's if you're a bowler. Imagine bowling to that all day.
But you can see like sort of whoever like the supreme leader just like grooming their child for the next role, regardless of their ability, and then you end up with the fall of the Roman Empire, I suppose.
I want to respond to two things in the chat quickly before we move on to the next game. One, Jofra Archer. Has anyone heard anything about him? He was in kit, standing around, but not bowling.
No, nothing. Not heard anything.
I think it'll be like Livingston. I think they'll let. I think the ECB will just.
Yeah, the ECB have probably been like, no, don't you dare.
There's rumours he might go back to the UK, but I've not heard that. We'll see. What were you going to say, Ross?
No, I'm still standing by. I'm still unsure if we'll ever see him play Test cricket again. I think they're trying to wrap him up, but I'm just not sure it's going to happen.
And then Tanzim says, almost all of your predictions have bombed. Rohit, Green, Maxwell, Umran, etc. Which predictions have actually come right? Stokes, it was a big call for flop. And he has.
Cameron Green's had one. Cameron Green's had one good game.
Max, it's very important. It's very important that if you have one good game, then everyone gets going. That guy's amazing. Right. Look at Harry Brook. Brook. There was literally I saw SRH predicted 11s or anticipated 11s saying they would drop Harry Brook. The game after he's hit a century and won them again.
Anything else going right? I think I've got Chahal for top wicket taker, which. He went around the park a little bit today, I'm in the hunt. Gaikwad's doing quite well.
The Royals are the best side; they're top.
Right, let's stop justifying ourselves. Can you predict the future?
I think we should be clear that you actually are getting top quality analysis, but we did it as a draft, so somebody had to take the fourth best option for flop of the year or whatever. Although I believe you took Green first, Max, so that's on you. You idiot.
Yeah.
Anyway, on Analytics Corner, I've got a little bit about Sunrisers, by the way. So if you're into that, stay tuned.
Let's do the next game, which was a bonkers affair as well. Royal Challengers Bangalore versus the
CSK.
CSK, the South Indian Derby. Did anyone have a review of that, or do you want me to just make one up?
I can make one up if you want.
Go on, make one up.
So CSK... in Bangalore, the Chinnaswamy, it's the stadium of sixes. And so it proved because Chennai Super Kings smashed a load of sixes. RCB smashed a load of sixes. The joint most sixes ever in a game of IPL cricket. All of those games, did you know, involved CSK. 33 sixes. Devon Conway started it. Ajinkya Rahane, he's renewed. He's a new man. And every doob has its day, as we know. And every doob's day is against RCB because he loves taking them down. 226 for 6, which by the end, people were almost like, should they have got more? But let's be honest, 226 is lots of runs. They probably should have got more because Glenn Maxwell also smashed the ball around. Faf du Plessis smashed the ball around. And I mean, in fairness, had Dikshana been able to catch anything for the first 15 overs, the game would have been over a lot sooner. But he can't. He can't catch. He's a terrible fielder. And it meant RCB were well in the game until late on. And it was Batirana who closed things out. But Deshpande, he's...
Not a
turned out to be less terrible than he was.
What a hockey stick of performance this IPL from him.
Yeah. I think RCB blew it. That's my take on it. I think they were quite a long way ahead of the game. They needed 80 off 8 overs on the biggest road that ever roaded, with Faf du Plessis and Glenn Maxwell going bonkers, and a pretty poor bowling attack to feast on. I'm calling it. I'm saying RCB probably 70% favourites at one point in this game, because 80 off 8 overs at that stadium is like 64 at most grounds. Like they really should have won the match, I think.
Well, the ESPN
fuck the ESPN
win
thing.
bits never had RCB as favourites.
That is clearly wrong. That is clearly
after,
wrong.
The first 5 overs.
All the bookmakers had RCB as big time favourites. Like
80 off 8 should have been well gettable.
They had 8 wickets.
Yeah.
They had 8 wickets, and Faf du Plessis and Maxwell hitting the ball, going yard on CSK.
And they would have had the impact player to go. Anyway, when it comes to the performance, Jack, Ajinkya Rahane, we've got to go there. We've got the guy is not reborn. He's just a new player. They've managed to find this random elegant stroke maker, and he looks absolutely mustard. Yeah,
he's playing basically the best he ever has in T20 cricket. I think he was in the orange cap race once back in the day. I was looking through this, and I think he had 1 year where he got 500 runs and struck at 130, which was back in the day.
Was he doing it at 200 or whatever?
No, this was back in the day. So you adjust it a little bit, and you say, look, if you were in 2015, if you've got 500 runs at 130, that would be 500 runs at 140 now. This is kind of a step above that. He is playing the best T20 cricket of his career. It's really incredible, and it's great stuff. Dubé as well. Shout out to Dubé. Can we play an over or under game with you two?
Yeah.
Okay, right. We'll do average and strike rate. Shivam Dubé against RCB. Average over or under 85. Ross.
Oh, I'm going to have to recuse myself from because I've read this.
Oh, you read it?
Ross,
over or under?
All right, 85 is high. That is high. Do you know what? It's RCB. Higher.
It's 96.5. He averages against RCB. Do you know what his strike rate? Over or under 190?
Oh, it's going to be just under. Maybe like 186 or something.
184. That's incredible. He is an all-time great against RCB. Everybody else averages 19. Averages 19, striking at 24. I must be sick of the sight of him. Like he's out of the league, apart from like these games against RCB, where he's absolutely killed them. I think that's incredible. We barely got to see Dhoni, which I thought was a shame. The crowd was begging for Dhoni, but we didn't get much of him. Conway was pretty good. I thought CSK with the bat were quite good. I did think with the ball.
Yeah, the thing about CSK with the bat is you look at the score that they need to get, and then you add 20 at least for their bowling.
Look, they're 3,
especially without Deepak Chahar.
They've won 3, lost 2 now. I think they've got serious, and I think we talked about their run in before. They've got some easy-ish games, and they're all at home in the last 3 matches. Yeah. So I think they've got a really good chance of making the playoffs. And they won a shootout here. They dragged one back that they probably should have lost at one point. That's what you need to do in the IPL. Every game is massive. Like if you've won 3, lost 2 at this point instead of lost 2, won 3, you're probably 15-20% more likely to make the playoffs, maybe even more. It's an absolutely massive difference because there's just there's barely any games to catch up now. Pretty good. Anything else from this match? I mean, like just generally, it was insane. I mean, like
does it highlight potential? The potential weakness of RCB in their middle order because you've got there's DK right to follow Glenn Maxwell, but aside from that. There's not a lot, is there? If they don't get it mostly done by their top 4, they're in potentially a spot of bother.
I think that's fair. I think there was one thing that struck me that broke pretty bigly. Hello, Donald Trump. Broke pretty bigly in CSK's favour was, I think that some of the guys down the order would have been better against conventional bowlers, but Paterana is so weird that they didn't really know what to do. Glenn Maxwell, when he faced him, his first 2 balls, he was like, what the hell is this? And then he destroyed him. It was like, oh, this guy cannot bowl to Glenn Maxwell. Like, he has to go away. But when he came back on and he was bowling to the lower order, they really obviously were struggling to pick the ball up. So I wonder if that. Yeah,
it's quite an interesting piece, right? Because you see, it was Shabazz Ahmed got out to him, and so did Prabhat Desai, and you're kind of sitting there saying, well, if they had the opportunity to go and play in kind of wider leagues than just the IPL, so these domestic batters, and not just play in the Syed Mushtaq Trophy, would they be better equipped of playing people like
weird.
Patirana? Yeah, and maybe that is the piece to kind of argue that, yeah, you've got the crown jewels. If you're in the India kind of international setup, then maybe they're kind of just like, no. But if you've got these kind of middling players who want to progress and want to get better, the only way they're going to do that is by seeing more cricket and doing more cricket. And
go and play in the Lanka Premier League.
Well, they're better players of spin. So you never know. I kind of think from that.
I think you might be. I think there's definitely a potential argument there. I think actually the broader argument, and this is really interesting. If you look at the number of T20 matches that the big time players for each nation play, India players just don't play that many. You know, Butler is playing the whole of the IPL. Then he's playing, a lot of the 100. He might have a few run outs in the Blast as well. And he played in Cape Town, and he might fit in another tournament somewhere else in the world. Plus, he's got all the England gigs. So it's like, 40 plus? Yeah. Kohli plays basically every game for India. Obviously every game for RCB as well.
And that's it.
And it's, he's probably playing 25, 30 max. So there's a big slice there. And then also, they're all going to be... most of those games are in India, so it's just a vast difference in experience in different conditions between even the elite level here. So not even at like the guys lower down the pecking order, who I think, Ross, you made a really good argument for them getting exposure to other leagues, but the guys at the top level as well, they're just not exposed to these other competitions. Now, it's not like the end of the world. They're still really good players, yeah, but. These are 5%. These are fine margins. They maybe at Adelaide you don't go really slow in the power play, and then hope for the best, post 170, think it's a good score, and then get steamrolled by two guys who've played a bit in Australia, who knew that playing at Adelaide was, you needed 200 basically, laughing at you as they hit 6 after 6. So I think there's you can look at it both ways. RCB. I feel like they needed to win that match, to be honest, and I'm thinking they might be sliding towards oblivion. What do you reckon?
They should just bloody bowl Hasaranga more. That is, some of the decisions from captain. There was just like Glenn Maxwell bowled ahead of Hasaranga. You're just like, mate, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think that was odd. I didn't. Yeah, I fully didn't get some of that. Yeah.
Anyway,
super
time for analytics?
Yeah, let's have a little break and then we'll be back with Analytics Corner.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Yo, we're back. Cricket Podcast is back. It's Analytics Corner. Where we talk about analytical trends from the IPL. We've got one thing each that we've been working on.
My first time in Analytics Corner.
Is it? Oh, it's good. Yeah, we had...
welcome.
We had Dan first week, then it was just Max and I last week talking about sixes, I think. Was it sixes? I think it was sixes.
Sixes.
Yeah.
And I was defending Harry Brook.
Max!
And then he immediately scored 100. So, turns out I was spot on.
We're going to pump Patreon one more time. Patreon.com/thecricketpod. We're pretty close to a half century of Patreons, which I feel like we should get to. So
that'll be the first 50 I've scored in a long time.
Head over there. From £5 a month, you get access to a bonus show every week. You get access to our Discord. For a little bit more, there's some data and stuff available. Ross is trying to make T-shirts, so maybe he'll help you out there. I don't know.
Shall I get the T-shirt? I'll get the T-shirt.
Get the T-shirt out while Max tells us about his Analytics Corner.
Right. Yeah, so if you remember, I don't know if you remember last week, but on the back of like all those crazy finishes and last over finishes, I wanted to do something about bowling at the death and Yorkers and haven't really got any ball tracking data because I don't have a cricket viz, so I struggled and went with something else. But only a few days later, with thanks to Flighted Leggy on Twitter, there was a lovely chart about bowlers and trying to bowl Yorkers. So we're back. We're back in business.
Back, baby. Someone else did the work for us.
Well, yeah. I mean, please tell me where this data is, because I want to play with it, but I can't. Anyway, so the chart, it was bowlers in the IPL who've bowled at least 120 balls at the death since 2019, and their rate of attempting Yorkers and their success at bowling Yorkers. So you were talking about Yorkers earlier and how, what the margin of error is and how badly it can go wrong. So Natarajan, Yorker specialist, right?
He's the king of
we all
Yorkers.
know about Natarajan.
Yeah.
He's the king of
He
Yorkers.
went for 50 this week.
Yeah, he's tried to bowl since 2019, 85% Yorker rate at the death, 85%, and he is
now,
about
Ross,
the second or third. Yeah, that's a plan. He's about the second or third most successful of all the bowlers in that population at doing so. About 38% of his Yorkers are Yorkers. So if you can do the maths of considering the 85% and 38% at the death, he's bowling just over half, basically full tosses and balls in the slot. So that's how you can end up going for 50.
Yeah,
and I mean the stats are obvious. Bowling Yorkers go at about 1 a ball at the death. If you miss it, the batting strike rate is about 170-ish. There's a big difference. But what also was quite interesting from another bit of analysis that I was reading was that actually wide Yorkers less effective than straight Yorkers from the data, which goes against sort of the conventional wisdom of what you see a lot at the moment. Wide Yorkers, which is quite interesting. I was sort of trying to pick out reasons for that. Possibly, bowling wides. If you're going at the stumps, you might like to bowl a wide. You don't want to be doing that. If you have to try and bowl a Yorker and you're only going to get it right 30% of the time, or just sort of, if it's a short boundary one side. We saw that today. Avesh Khan bowled wide Yorkers to the left hander at the short boundary. So there's reasons, but I was surprised by that finding. But the best since 2019 at nailing their Yorkers, Sandeep Sharma.
Really?
His role for Rajasthan Royals, not as surprising.
He went undrafted. He went unpicked and then been pulled in as a replacement. Still,
that's very impressive.
Baffling piece.
Nice work for Sandeep there.
But that's only just over 40% of the time. That's the best 40% of the time.
It works every time.
Lasith Malinga, best bowler of Yorkers of all time, 40%. He was elite. 40% of his Yorkers hit, which I was really surprised by how low that success rate was. I mean, it's less than half. I mean, you can miss short and long, right? So if you want to say it's down to like random chance, 33%-ish, if you're being tight, but the Yorker, the length you've got for a Yorker is even shorter. So it's probably more likely 20, 25 random chance. But I mean, bang average since 2019 in the IPL is 28% success rate.
Wow.
I mean, that's low, isn't it? That's really low. So you can really see why Yorkers can go so horribly wrong.
It's
and you
interesting.
end up with Rinku's team scoring 30 or 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think they sort of work, don't they, as a sort of surprise tactic. We saw for a while, like Tymal Mills, that type of bowler became flavour of the month. Like guys who banged it in halfway down, and then they got a bit predictable, and so we're seeing a reversion back to.
It's an arms race, isn't it?
Back to Yorkers.
Basically.
Interesting thing that I always thought, and I mentioned this in part 2 with Yorkers. I think there's another thing that we don't fully understand yet with Yorkers and what makes them successful, and I think the bowlers that get away with unsuccessful Yorkers as well.
Yes,
and that's the amount of backspin that a player puts on the ball. If you bowl with backspin out of the hand, what that means is that the ball, rather than dipping, looks like it rises. It doesn't rise. Gravity still applies, but the rotation, is the Magnus effect or something like that, means that the ball will feel to the batter as though it is not dipping. And that's deceptive. Look at the two bowlers who get the most lift or the most backspin on their Yorkers. Guess who they are?
Are they the two that you mentioned earlier?
Yes, Jofra and Bumrah. Jofra gets 5.3. I'm not going to go into it. Jofra gets a shit ton of lift. Jasprit Bumrah is significantly ahead of third best. Most people, pretty average. At the far opposite end of the spectrum, and I think this
also helps that their elbows extend.
Yeah, but that's probably why they're getting so much backspin. At the other end of the spectrum, Lasith Malinga gets basically no lift. So in other words, his ball drops more than you think. But I think he got away with more Yorkers because again the ball
went the other way.
The batter would think it would be a full toss and then it would be a half volley and they'd have played over the ball.
I was wondering about that because when you look at his, if his success rate is, it was good, but you're still looking 40%. How is he so damn good? And then it comes into,
so I think
how easy is the full toss to hit?
That's the other dynamic that's at play. So look out for that when you're watching cricket. Yeah. Ross, welcome to Analytics Corner. What have you got for us?
It was funny that you mentioned Natarajan, Max, because we went into this tournament thinking that Sunrisers bowling, on paper, it's pretty fair to say that their past performances, it was a strong bowling lineup, we thought. Yeah, there was some injury proneness there. But so far in the tournament, they are all performing worse across the board in terms of economies and strike rate. So if you take ye old reliable Bhuvi Kumar, in last year's IPL, he was going at 7.34. This year, 8.7. So nearly a run and a half a game worse, and over worse. Natarajan, 9.44, going to 10.55. His strike rate last year was 22.5. His average, his 22.5. 47.5 this year around. It's not looking good for them. Washington Sundar hasn't taken a wicket yet in the 5 games he's played. So the matchup breaker that he is, he's going at 0.74 more. And then Malik is their superstar, fair to say. We know he's always going to be a little bit expensive just because of the top edges that kind of go through because he's just ridiculous.
Not if you don't play him.
Not if you don't play him. He last year he was going at 9 and over. He's now going at 11. That's 2 runs and over worse. So it's not a good start from their trusted contingent of bowlers.
Do you have a theory on why
they can pull it back?
Oh, that's true. What's your theory on why, Ross?
Well, I think it's the more carefree nature of the IPL this year. So the batting intent and the impact sub, I think, are giving teams kind of more license to thrill. And I think that's actually going to impact on the bowlers' economy rates and averages. And yeah, it's a bit of a longer season. This is obviously a smaller sample from only a few games. But if they are going to have any chance of getting to the playoffs this year, they need more from their senior bowling lineup.
Yeah, I've thought that about SRH, and I had it down as a note. So it was good that we're thinking along the same lines there. I wonder, and I hope I'm wrong, because I do quite like this team, and they played exciting cricket, and I think they're interesting. But I do wonder if they missed the boat last season and the year before by not having a proper batting lineup with the great bowling that they had, and now they've just ticked over the edge. Like Bhuvi's just not quite the elite bowler that he was. Still very good, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. Natarajan, maybe he's just missing 10% more Yorkers, 5% more Yorkers, and now he's going for 50.
And people have seen him, they've played against him.
Well, he's actually, in the last 3 years, he's tried like 85% Yorkers. His overall, between like 2012 and 2021, was more like 45. So he's trying more now.
Maybe he's just a more limited bowler. Yeah, he's had a lot of injuries. Maybe he can't do a skill that he used to have. That'd be interesting to look into. Imran Malik, I think, has been a bit unfortunate. Like, don't stop using him in the power play. Like, don't do that. It happens every year. And then don't drop him if it doesn't work. Like it's his fault. Like, it'd be like if England gave Jack Leach the new ball in the first test of the Ashes and he didn't get a wicket, and then afterwards they were like, "Well, we've dropped Jack Leach." Like that was the problem.
That's his problem, not our problem.
Yeah. He'd have got rid of Cam Green in the middle overs around Malik, and then it would have been all over.
Yeah. So I think that's an interesting call. Did you have Arshdeep on the Yorker? People requested Arshdeep.
On the Yorker list.
Yeah, what was his Yorker percentage?
He's quite high up there, but he's not as high as Natarajan. He attempts just over somewhere between 65 and 70%, and he's fairly successful as well. He's just a tick behind Natarajan's success rate, or 36. Bhuvi Kumar's actually 40% success rate as well, but he doesn't try that many. But yeah, no, Arshdeep's good. Arshdeep is good.
There we go. I had one, and you can read this one actually. It's quite a long one that I wrote. I did a Substack for our, well, I was going to say for our patrons, but anyone can read it. You just have to go to the Cricket Pod at substack.com. Is that right, Max? Can someone put that in the chat? I think that's right.
.substack.com, yeah.
It's something like that. Basically looking at the future of cricket analytics. It's got a little bit to do with the IPL. I had a look at the 6 rate for different players. We talked about this last week, and I wanted to know who is hitting all these sixes. And it turns out, if you look at the data, it's not like a bunch of new guys coming into the league, or a bunch of guys who've just turned 28, like really reaching their peak, maybe 26 reaching their peak. There are a couple of them. Tilak Varma, an example of a young guy, and Gaikwad, obviously a guy coming into his peak. Actually, a lot of the sixes have been driven by old dudes who are slaying it. King old dude is Faf du Plessis, and obviously him being in really good shape makes us feel like he isn't an old dude, which might be, a bit of analysis in and of itself. If you eat and train like an athlete, maybe you will be good.
Go to the gym lots.
Yeah, like maybe you can be good at 37 too. That you can take that one for free. But there's like a few guys who've really transformed the number of sixes they hit. Faf is a good example of this, and it's sustained over a couple of years for him. And I think, well, what this led me to the conclusion of is that there's a movement happening, and it might only be in certain individuals working this out, or it might be a coach that's telling them to do this, or it might be a group of players who got together at the IPL and exchanged information. You always hear that, don't you? Like Ravi Bopara will say on BBC Comms, the great thing about going to the IPL is, isn't playing the games. It's that you get to share a dressing room with all the stars. Maybe something that they're learning is that you have to hit more sixes, and they're working out techniques for doing that. What really struck me was it was guys who had kind of been there, done that. Like Kohli's really upped his 6 rate this year, for example. Faf's really upped his 6 rate. Rahane, fantastic example.
When you play at the Chinnaswamy, it's not bad.
Sure, this factors in, but they're crazy, and the number of sixes these guys are hitting. Rahane hasn't played all his games at the Chinnaswamy. Gaikwad as well. Like, you can throw him in. Like, Gaikwad is a guy who is reaching peak potential, probably, or is somewhere around that. Maybe has been for 2 or 3 years. Last season, he hit way fewer sixes than he is now. Like, now, when he gets a short ball, he hits it up, and it goes freaking far. Now, it could be like he's just been extremely lucky and been top edging a bunch of stuff. Like, we probably don't have the slow motion cameras and stuff like that available to us to really get a grip of whether it's a technique change or whether it's luck. But most signs are pointing towards some players sort of figuring this out. Now, I've written a long article about this and how the future for analytics is basically it's not going to be recruitment. It's not like it is now. Your job won't be to sit there and say what we need are guys who can strike at 150 plus, and we need 3 guys who are good against spin and 2 guys who are good against pace. We need a good mix of left and right handers. What your job will be, because everyone will have that. Like, everybody will have that information. It will be old news. Like, you'll have lost the arms race if that's what you're.
And it's mad that some IPL teams don't have.
That now, there are. I mean, it's mad that somebody dropped 2 crore on Kane Williamson. Like, that's nut. That is a nuts thing to do. What your job will be identifying players who you could turn into a 150 strike rate guy, and you can have a look at how you go about that. Now, there's an interesting guy, Julian Wood, who actually had a head coach job in the Bangladesh Premier League this year. Didn't go that well for him, but don't let that cloud your judgment. Who has developed loads of power hitting techniques. One of his interesting clients, it related to last year's IPL, Benny Howe, and you can look at Benny Howe's strike rate pre and post working with Julian Wood. It goes from like 124 to 150. The guy went from pants, basically, to an absolute killer. I'm just going to point people in the direction. Did we find out what it was, the Substack address? No.
Max was on it.
Max, for crying out loud, you had one job. Come on, Max.
I don't know.
Right, before...
Go on, Max.
Whilst
he does that, should we reveal
Oh yeah, go do it.
This is
T-shirts.
do a
Yeah.
reveal.
We've got this is a trial. This is a.
If you're listening on you like if you're listening to
Yeah,
this, it's
Well, I'll put it up on Instagram, and you can vote if you like it or not. We've got the Cricket Podcast logo on the back. We're going to make it probably a little bit smaller, and we've got we think at the podcast that we're part of a club, and we run a cricket club called I Don't Like Cricket Club, and we want you to be part of that club. And so we've put that on the front of this shirt in the writing that you can see there. We'll post some pictures up. You can vote whether you like it or not, and we will go from there. And that is provided by Serious Cricket. You'll be able to write it on their website. And remember, we are sponsored by Serious Cricket. And if you use code TCP23, you'll get 10% off all equipment.
It's thecricketpod.substack.com. All right, we're off. We're out of here. That's an hour long. It's a good pod.
Goodbye.
Enjoyed it. Lots of interesting cricket, and there's more coming. We never do preview of the next games. We should try and work that in.
No, it's double-header tomorrow.
We're about to reach, is there? We're about to reach the mid-IPL lull. So we need to get some preview action in. Cool. See you later, everyone.
Goodbye.